EIDR has been around now for more than 6 years. It's an industry effort to create it's an agreed upon standard ID mechanism that is not proprietary, that anyone can use, anyone can look up, and that can be applied in all of these different industry workflow contexts. So it's been making steady progress, and we've been working with SIM and the advertising industry for quite some time around it.
So what were the barriers? How come it has taken so long to come up with this UPC code of sorts?
Well, the code itself has been out there, as I say, for 6 years or so. The reason it probably took long, it didn't happen before, was really that the impetus for creating it was the transition to digital. As soon as all the media companies started having to deal with IP contexts, internet distribution, digital distribution, suddenly having a machine-readable code became more and more important. In a non-digital world, it's easier to mail somebody a file, to use kind of English language references for things. As soon as you start to get digital and you have to automate across all these different digital platforms, you need a machine-readable code, or else you're constantly having human intervention and manual processing in workflows that should just be done by computers in nanoseconds.
So will this benefit content owners and advertisers equally?
I would say yes, in the sense that content owners benefit because they have many ways of monetizing their content. They can sell it, they can rent it, they can put ads against it. In each of those workflows, they have opportunities for cutting costs, streamlining, be more efficient as a result of this type of automation. Advertisers, they live and die on successfully getting their ads in front of audiences on all these different platforms. For that to work well, you have to be able to count all the views on those platforms. You have to know exactly what program was viewed, what ad was viewed. So the industry for quite some time has been talking about automated ways of doing cross-platform measurement, because that's the only way you can really get to a point where you know exactly how many people watched your ad over a 3-day, over a 7-day period, over any particular period, whether it was on a television, whether it was on a telephone, a tablet, whether it was just someplace on the web. You have to be able to count all of those views in order to know what you're paying for as an advertiser. So I think it becomes increasingly important for the industry to have an effective way of spending its advertising dollars.
So is this a syndicated database, for lack of a better word, and how do you access it?
Like I say, it's an industry consortium currently of about 90 companies, most of Hollywood, a lot of MVPDs, digital distributors, service providers. The database has about 1.2 million records in it right now, and it's constantly growing. It is accessible to the public on the web. You can go to EIDR.org and look up records manually. It is accessible via an SDK and an API to any of the members that want to implement it. It is supported by essentially dues contributions from all of those companies. It's a nonprofit, so it doesn't charge any sort of exorbitant fees or anything. It tries basically to just continue to run, register new records, make the entire database available to anyone in the industry who needs it in order to automate transactions or automate tracking. So it's very easily accessible, and it is not expensive at all.
So last question, is there a next step then following this announcement?
In this particular stage, yes. This announcement today is about what the next step that has been taken by this standardization group in trying to build an open standard approach to taking the EIDR ID and the ad ID and putting them into content through a watermark. If you can put Nielsen today puts an audio watermark in programming in order to count, listens for the watermark in panelists' homes and counts views. The same thing could be done with this mark. There's going to be an open standard way of inserting it and detecting it. Kantar Media has been chosen as the technology provider, but the technology both for insertion and detection, as I understand it, will be licensable by other people in the industry. Vendors will be able to find that watermark on any platform, on any device, just by using the industry standard detection, and be able to report back in an industry standard manner to all the advertisers, to the content owners, what they heard, how many views, exactly what content was viewed. So the next step really is to move past, we've got a technology, we've got a standard, now let's marry those together and actually start building something and make the technology available to all the service providers and content owners in the industry, who then have to start implementing it. Content companies and networks have to put it into broadcasts. So there's a lot of work still to be done to deploy it. But this is an important milestone in terms of the technology being ready to go, or very close to ready to go.